The saga of the innocent protesters harassed and arrested unlawfully by ICE agents continues. After Mahmoud Khalil, we have another one. I think, last weekend, my co-host today, Mark Pellegrino, and his co-host on that episode, James Valiant, had a interesting debate about Mahmoud Khalil, and rumor has it, I can't verify this, that Marco Rubio actually watched that and thought, okay, we need to get more such content on ARCUK. Let's go find some more, and they did find another one. Then Mahdawi, yeah, Amy Goodman from Democracy Now! Taught us how to pronounce it. I apparently didn't listen, but he is the most recent one to be arrested. And the amazing thing there is less the legal issue, which I'm sure we'll discuss in the coming days and weeks, but more the complete whitewashing of his character by the media. I encourage people to go Google him, go to the news tab, look at what you find, and this guy sounds like such a wonderful human being. I mean, one of the the headline in the New York Times said he wanted peace in the Middle East. ICE wants to deport him. That's a headline. And when we continue the show, we're going to see how CBS handled their opportunities to interview him. But anyway, this guy is now has been arrested, or how do they put it? Abducted by masked, hooded ICE agents, and he is now awaiting deportation. Welcome to the Daily Objective. I'm Razi Ginsburg. I'm joined by Mark Pellegrino. Mark, we're going to see a little bit, we're going to hear from the horse's mouth, but general thoughts about this. Oh, and of course, we're going to look into some of the stuff about him that we don't hear about in the media and wonder why it is. But any first thoughts that you have
Well,
so
first thing
far?
I want to say is I'm doing my due diligence in screwing the BDS movement in the rear. Here's my Starbucks, my morning Starbucks, in support of Israel, and to say F you to the BDS movement. You can all go to hell. I drink my Starbucks daily, and I wouldn't if it weren't for you. So I appreciate you making me a more faithful Starbucks customer. Yeah, I mean, to me, this is just another example of Trump derangement syndrome on the left. We've got it on the right for sure, for different reasons, but in this case, they want to do everything they can to vilify the administration and to deify the quote unquote victims of the administration. And this is just the latest iteration of that. And let's face it, the media seems to have a sympathy for the Palestinian cause over the cause of Israel. I think because they fall into the same trap that so many young people do who are more concrete bound and can't really morally conceptualize. Because the Palestinians are poor, they must be the decent, oppressed ones. And because the Israelis are rich, it must be because they have oppressed and they are mean and cruel. It's not because the cultures are different. They have different values, and one is productive and life oriented, the other is death oriented and unproductive. It's because of the class war that inevitably takes place between the bourgeois and the proletariat, and so they all identify with what they think is the David in this David and Goliath scenario. So two things at work: the Trump derangement syndrome that inclines them to criticize anything the Trump administration does, and their natural affinity for what they consider the weaker side, because the weaker side must be weak because it's oppressed, not because of the values they hold.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, seeing the left attempt to vilify the Trump administration, who are villains, on so many issues so clearly, but that's not what the left has an issue with. Yeah, that's sad. Thank you, Apollo Zeus, for the super chat. By the way, this episode, the Ayn Rand Center UK, does shows that are sponsored by companies or products or services. Starbucks did not sponsor this episode, but Starbucks, if you do want to sponsor future episodes, give me a call. Then I will read whatever copy we agree on. But until then, I will read Yotam's message here, post in the chat because I agree with it. I wish Starbucks had good coffee. I would drink it every day.
You know what?
Sorry,
It
Mark.
doesn't matter that they have good coffee. They support Israel. So, and there's a group of purple-haired idiots who are trying to boycott them. So I am for Starbucks, even if they burn their beans. Me no give a shit.
Thank you, Gail, for the super chat. Mark, I have you seen this clip from the 60 Minutes interview by Mohsen Mahdawi from last year?
I've seen pieces of clips, so let me see if I've seen this one. Are we going
Okay,
to show it?
if this is a memorable one, so if you saw it, you will have remembered it. But let's hear it again, Daniel. Let's play it. This is the one from last year.
What was your initial reaction when you heard about the Hamas attack on October 7th?
I could not believe what my eyes were seeing, where I see Hamas members getting into settlements and so on. But also the first moment I saw that, I put my hand on my heart. And I started praying, knowing that there will be a huge level of revenge from the Israelis. And I was praying that this will not be the result, because it would be
Okay, all right.
disastrous.
So
Oh my God.
yeah, look, being a piece of shit on its own is not a deportable offense. But yeah, if you watched the videos on October 7th, you were watching the mass murder, the torture, what the Palestinians were doing to people for the crime of being Jews, and the first thing you thought was, "Oh no, what's going to happen to these murderers?" You are the absolute lowest of scum, and yeah, that is what this person is.
Yeah, this happened to be the one clip I did see. I posted about it on social media. I don't recall. I think I saw a couple of responses that were similar to mine, which was, how interesting. He didn't think at all about the Israeli victims. He was concerned about the Israeli response. I'm sorry, man. That opening salvo speaks everything about this guy's orientation. It says everything about him. And the fact that he's getting a sympathetic ear after he says that, and I don't even know if there's a follow-up question like, did you think about the Israeli victims? Did you think about the 250 hostages? Did you think about the 1,200 murdered men, women, and children and elderly? Did you think about them at all? Did you pray for them? Was there having not seen the full interview, was there that response? Because that would have been my response.
Well, um, yeah. So look, his response says a lot about him, but the media, there's something about uh interviewing somebody, getting such an answer, and you know, not trying to understand what, like, at least follow up, at least, like,
Yeah, that's what I'm asking. There was no follow-up, right? There was no like, wait a minute. You prayed for the Palestinian people. You prayed for you were concerned about the response of the Israeli people. Were you at all concerned about the Israeli victims of this? These people in these kibbutzes were quote unquote friends with the Palestinians. They were sympathetic to these people. They took them to the hospital. They took them to the doctor's appointments. They shopped for them. They helped these people. They wanted a co-relationship with the Palestinian people, and these were the very in. I mean, you can't get any more psychopathic than this. That these were the people that the Palestinians chose to murder says even more about how despicable and disgusting this fucking culture is. I say the Palestinian culture because it is infected with this death cult ideology. And they went and murdered the very people who sympathized with them and wanted to love them and be neighbors with them. You can't get any more psychopathic than that.
yeah, by the way, these kibbutzes were referred to by this guy as settlements. It's kind of it's easy to forget when you hear the next part, but yeah, he referred to them as settlements, which is a statement the entire state of Israel should not exist and is an illegal settlement. And that, of course, also went without question. And one of the things we were hearing in the media, and we covered this when we talked about Democracy Now! A couple of days ago, is how this guy was all about peace, and he also fought against anti-Semitism. Democracy Now! Had some token Israeli, ex-Israeli who was working with this guy, and yeah, David Collier on X. Anybody who's not following him, this is of the accounts. If you want to follow accounts that actually go into the truth about people that the media are lying to you about, I think there are two accounts you need to follow. That's David Collier and Eitan Fishberger. Eitan has been on this show a few times. David Collier will hopefully be someday as well. We probably couldn't do this investigative journalism as well as he does, but we don't have the bandwidth to try, and we're very grateful for him. So I'm gonna start reading from a thread that he wrote about Mohsen Mahdawi. So this is from a thread from yesterday. The New York Times painted Mohsen Mahdawi as a saint. Vermont State Senator Becca White fell over herself to call Mohsen her friend. The PR campaign would have you thinking ICE arrested Mother Teresa. Does anyone look behind the mask? It took me 2 days to find holes in the story. We start with his backstory. Mohsen says he was 10 when his best friend was shot in front of him in the Al-Fara refugee camp. This was in the 60 Minutes interview. I think we showed it last time we talked about it, and we questioned it at the time, but David Collier actually checked, and he says, I checked the fatalities database for the time period. He was 10 years old. When he was 10 years old, no children at all were killed at his camp. Something is wrong. In fact, the only child killed in the Al-Fara camp during the Second Intifada was named Muhammad, and he died because of an explosive gas canister. He also died in a field. Every detail Mohsen gave about the event appears to be wrong. We can pause there, and look, we brought this up, and we were like, this is the kind of story that these people tell. I mean, they lie to us about things we see with our own eyes, like the supposed bombing of Al Ali Hospital, which we still hear may have been Israel, even though we have footage from a few angles of the misfired Islamic Jihad rocket falling there. So yeah, in this case, it took a bit more, but yeah, unsurprisingly, that is a lie.
Yeah, I mean, we've reached this very strange space and time. As I this morning witnessed Candace Owens go off the deep end, even worse, where you're not supposed to believe the evidence of your senses. And people are actually taking that seriously and not believing the evidence of your senses. So you can see from various angles that missile misfiring and hitting the hospital. And yet, people will still claim it's a deep fake. People will still claim it's Israel. Um, I have to think part of this comes from the inability of people to grasp exactly how incompetent government is. And because Israel is so effective at defending themselves, they tend to think that everything that goes wrong with the Palestinian side, it doesn't come from their total incompetence. It comes from, maybe overcompetence of the Israelis. But certainly we're being asked to buy conspiracies and deep fakes from the other side, and I'm just shocked that it's a thing that people are really actually believing this stuff and still passing this pablum on. I think they understand that if they just pass the news on social media, nobody's really going to read the particulars. Oh yeah, that was actually a misfire from that particular jihadist militia group. No, they're just going to keep passing it on. It becomes viral, and then it takes on another truth itself. And they rely on that. They rely on that for their propaganda.
By the way, I just noticed the T-shirt is another brand that doesn't sponsor this show, but we love. And Bucky's, if you call me, we can work something out as well.
Are they pro-Israel?
I don't know, but I just love the fact that Texas has these, massive shopping mall gas stations. And I know now they're in a few other states, so big fan. And yeah, hopefully they can survive Trump making America great again. Thank you, Dan Day, for the super chat. Dan says, how do these folks get green cards? Through marriage to a fellow jihadi queen, I guess. Muslims can never be loyal to non-Muslims ever. Don't trust them ever. Again, look, with every religion, every religion is not actually a philosophy that you can really fully live by, and to the extent that you try to follow it, it harms you, and to the extent that you ignore it, it's your life will be better. And yeah, even among people who call themselves Muslims, there are those who don't follow it enough to actually cause harm to themselves and others. I think with Islam, there's a much bigger problem than with other religions, but yeah, religion as such. Uh, I know there are many in our audience who will disagree, but that is not the way. Mark, anything to say about that before we continue with
The more consistently you follow religion, the more consistently you're going to fuck your life up and everybody else's life around you, because it's a anti-rational belief system. I do know that there will be some people in the audience who disagree with that, but look, man, it's a form of evasion. It sometimes has its own internal consistencies, but it's really about fear and evasion of that fear. Embrace reason, face your fears, and move bravely ahead. You don't need a fake entity in the sky or arbitrary laws and rules to follow to straighten your life out. You need only be a rational human being that uses your mind and takes responsibility for your actions.
Yeah. Rational human being is one end of the spectrum. Mohsen Mahdawi is the other end. Let's continue reading this thread by David Collier. So he talks about basically the story about seeing his best friend die in front of him is a complete lie. And he continues, but we shouldn't be surprised. Only 4 people died in total during those 4 years in his camp. If only 4 people died over the course of 4 years, how did Mohsen scrape 7 bodies off the wall in one night? Did nobody bother to check any of his stories? Next tweet in the thread. Then there is Mohsen's family. He posted an image of 7 people to his social media, mourning all of their deaths. I identified 4. All were terrorists killed while fighting the IDF. His entire family appears to be terrorists or terrorist supporters. Here is one of them. And there is a picture. We will put the link to that thread in the chat and in the description. And look how he lies about his own family too. Mohsen claimed in an Instagram post that his 2 cousins were, quote, assassinated, saying, quote, an Israeli sniper unjustly shot the 2 brothers in the head. In fact, they died because they shot at Israeli soldiers and the soldiers shot back. And then there is some more screenshots there. But yeah, isn't that the story of all the many Palestinian victims, of whom about 100% are women, children, and journalists, or all of the above? That is the story. They somehow were shot by Israelis, and we never hear about why Israel shot and who shot first.
Yeah, that's correct. And it's crazy how the population of babies in Gaza keeps going up and up and up and up, and they become almost 100% of the victims now that the IDF are going after, those poor little innocent diaper-bound babies, not jihadist creeps in civilian clothes. Notice how they come out in their military gear when there's a ceasefire, and they act all tough when there's a ceasefire, when they can't be targeted by the country they know will abide by the ceasefire, unlike them. And then as soon as the war gets back on, they put the civilian clothes on and embed themselves in the civilian population, and then use those population casualties to, in effect, degrade the moral will of the Israeli people to fight the war. Of course, I've been on Israel about this for a long time. It's highly unpopular. of me to say, but I don't think that Israel should be sacrificing its men and women, going house to house, de-booby trapping homes and fighting Hamas in hand-to-hand combat. I think they should simply go in there and wipe out Hamas with as little muss and fuss to the Israeli people as possible. This war could have been over in 2 months if they went in there with full vigor. And with the goal and standard of wiping out Hamas, retrieving the hostages, and not putting their own soldiers and their own economy at great risks, which they have to do since everybody's a reservist and the entire population becomes mobilized for war. So much of their productivity is at their productive capacity is at risk because these people are trying to fight for their own survival. Well, the logical solution is to make it as quick a war as possible. Unfortunately, the world community isn't prepared for that morally. They don't understand war anymore. And they won't allow Western powers to defeat these pest hole ideologies.
Yeah, I mean, the problem is, I think that's Netanyahu's excuse. The world community wants Israel to fight in a certain way, but that's not actually the case. The world community does not want Israel to fight at all.
Yes.
They felt bad and condemned the attacks on October 7th, said, gave lip service to Israel has a right to defend itself, and then every attempt by Israel to defend itself is being condemned. The Biden administration demanded within months that Israel end the war and leave Gaza completely, that it doesn't go into Rafah, which of course, is to say to Israel, don't go into Rafah, is to say to Hamas, just wait it out in Rafah. Of course, Netanyahu did what had to be done there. But yeah, the sad thing is Israel is sacrificing its soldiers to defend its enemy in order to appease people who want Israel to cease to exist, just like Israel's enemy. So there is absolutely no reason to do this unless you are truly committed to altruism to the point of wanting to reward those who
Suicide.
want to kill you with your own death.
Yeah, I'm going to say it again. I say it all the time, but I really want this message to get through to folks because whenever I start talking about this, the idiot response is, "Oh, you're for killing babies." No, I'm not. The Palestinians are. I'm not. The Israelis aren't. Any decent human being isn't. But since the Palestinians aren't surrendering, I have to assume this is the cost they're willing to bear in order to achieve their cause. So I have to remind people that war is the absence of civil society. It is the absence of civilization. Some party, in this case, the Gazans and the Palestinians, have decided that persuasion and rights no longer matter. And they decided to get what they wanted by murder, rape, and torture, starvation, psychological torture. In other words, various forms of violence against another people. The only moral responsibility Israel has is to its own people. The only moral responsibility they have is to stop Hamas as effectively and efficiently as possible, as quickly as possible, so as to save themselves and their economy. They have no moral responsibility for the Palestinian people. That's on the hands of the Palestinian people and on their horrible government that they elected, Hamas. And to think that it's somehow morally superior of Israel to feed, clothe, and house the people that want to murder them while attempting to defeat the very powers that want to murder them is a moral absurdity. So wrap your fucking head around it. War sucks. It's hell. And the people who start the war need to understand that in no uncertain terms. And there's only one way to make them understand it. And that's to beat the living shit out of them. Sorry, that's just the way it is.
Yeah. Now, let's go back to this thread, but I want to clarify my point, at least with this episode, is less, he should be deported, he shouldn't be deported, and more disgusting and despicable whitewashing of who he is. I mean, you can say, look, this is a free speech issue. He has the right to say it. You know, he didn't riot, whatever you want to say. That's one thing. But pretending that he is the exact opposite of who he is. They are pretending, the media is telling us that this guy was fighting for peace. No, he's telling you in an interview that what he's fighting for is the extermination of the Jews. If he calls it a settlement, that means all of Israel is a settlement. If the kibbutzim next to the Gaza Strip are settlements, there is no place where a Jew lives in Israel that is not a settlement. That's what he means by that. And again, in the next breath, he tells you that when he sees Jews being slaughtered, he's worried about one thing, the people doing the slaughtering. So you would expect some of that to be there, and then tell us why he shouldn't be deported. But that does not exist. And here's some more of what doesn't exist, but exists on David Collier's X. So David Collier continues. Vermont Senator Becca White almost fell over herself to whitewash Mohsen Mahdawi's dubious history. Is she extremely gullible in general or just totally blinded by the Palestinian flag? Several other politicians have fallen into the same dangerous rabbit hole. And I uncovered even more. Mohsen's propaganda story has him focusing on education after a talk with his uncle in the early 2000s. In reality, in 2012, he was opening Facebook groups that glorified serious convicted terrorists. And then there's a screenshot. Again, we will post a link. In his Facebook group, Mohsen promotes a show that, quote, highlights the sacrifices of our martyred heroes, prisoners, and wounded, unquote. The show basically involves Mohsen's mother going to the homes of the worst terrorist prisoners. He posts loads of these videos glorifying terrorists. Again, screenshots are there. Mohsen also posts images glorifying and honoring terrorists. In this image, he has posted a picture of his mom praying by the grave of Satan al-Wadi, a terrorist who ran a suicide cell on the Golan Heights. There's far more information on these videos in the article below, but look at this one posted by Mohsen in 2014, probably in the months he was preparing to go to the US. In the next post, you will see a clip of some of the genocidal anti-Semitic content inside. And again, all of that is in there. So none of this made mainstream media. You will not find, I don't know how many pages you need to go if you Google and go to the news tab, how many pages you have to go to find anything like this. I haven't checked. I checked the first page, and you would expect, in the first page you get the main news sources that people use, like the New York Times, like the Guardian, and yeah, none of this. This is an innocent person dedicated to peace despite Israel's genocide, apartheid, starvation, whatever, and he is being deported because he wants peace.
Yeah, again, the misinformation machine and the establishment media is unbelievable. It's reached unbelievable heights of stupid, and it puts us in a very precarious position because people make judgments on this kind of information. They make value determinations based on this kind of information. And when they see a glossy production like this, they're not seeing it the way you and I are, Razi. I mean, we hear his responses, and it's very clear what he's leaving out, the careful language he's attempting to use. It doesn't hide what his real intentions are to anybody who knows anything about the region, but to somebody who's not acquainted with what's going on in Israel, the use of the term settlements may not disturb them as much as it does you or I, or they may miss the fact that he didn't pray for the Israeli victims. He just worried about the Israeli response. That may just fly over people's heads. We are actually living in a less conceptual world where people are less able to connect these conceptual dots. And we do have the moral reason, and people seem less capable of that. But people are going to make choices based on this piece about this person, and the reasons for making this piece are corrupt on their face. I've already said two reasons why I think they make a show like this and paint this character in the way that they paint him. They want to hurt the Trump administration, and they have sympathy for the Palestinian cause, so they're gonna drop context galore in order to promote those two things. And unfortunately, there's going to be a lot of people who believe it.
Thank you, Bonnie, for the super chat. Thank you, PC, for the super chat. PC says mainstream media is no longer trustworthy. Yeah, I don't know when the last time it was trustworthy was, but it is going downhill, surprisingly, because you would think there isn't much downhill to go. The former troll turned part-time troll, part-time Daniel's biggest fan, asks, Razi, is Mark still believing in objectivism? I think he's waiting for you to talk him out of it. So if you want to do it in a super
Wait,
chat,
what?
we will read it for you, but kidding. But not
Okay.
kidding about the super chat part. Send us a super
Wait.
chat, talk us out of it, and we will read it. Maybe.
Okay. Okay. Wait, I
Uh,
missed part of that. Is he supposed to talk us out of objectivism?
yes. Look, maybe maybe has a strong case. Who
I
knows?
doubt it, but I'd love to see it.
Yeah. And we will see it if it's in a super chat. Otherwise, we may or may not.
Bring it on, buddy.
Anyway, um, yeah, well, I think Mohsen Mahdawi will earn his being the topic of maybe some more episodes of the show. Hopefully, there are some more people like him on their way out. We'll see, but we will keep covering it regardless. And yeah, next time you see me on this channel, I'm not sure when it will be, but I will be in Israel unless, of course, things change. That's going to be the first time since October 7th. So when I'm in Israel, there will be some content from there. Mark, parting thoughts. And again, like when we look at the political map, is there any alternative you can think of that people might want to consider?
I think the alternative is too ugly for people to consider. The Palestinians have made this an us or them situation, and I choose us. And I want the Israelis to do the same. Unfortunately, that means they're going to have to fight with the type of vigor that the rest of the world doesn't want to see the consequences of, because war is ugly. And the accusations of immorality and targeting citizens will come fast and furious. And it doesn't look. We've already seen what happens when Israel attempts to save an entire population and treat them as the equals of the Israeli population, the moral equals. They shift around 2 million people that live there, and it's called ethnic cleansing. They move them out of harm's way so that only about 40,000 people out of the multi-millions that live there get killed, the majority of which are Hamas fighters, and they're called genociders. I would just dispense with attempting to appeal to the international community at all. They're fraudulent. Their moral premises are degrading and disgusting and clearly biased. And I would consider my survival to be primary, my people's survival to be primary, and the survival of the legitimate state that, in my opinion, the only legitimate state out of the 22 states that exist in that region would be primary. And to do that, you need to wipe out Hamas. You wipe out Hamas so that Islamic Jihad sees that its jihad can go no further, and they fall too. And that means stretching into the West Bank. It means doing a lot of things that I think the Israeli people don't necessarily have the heart to do, and the world community certainly doesn't want to support them in that. But Israel's gone it alone in the past. I hope they discover their strength to do what they have to do now. It's ugly, it's despicable, but it's not your fault. They're making you do ugly, despicable things in order to survive, because it's you or them. Choose you, please.
Um, I agree, but you didn't answer my question. My question was for American viewers, is there any alternative to the options on the table politically when they look at the political map?
Oh,
Because,
yes, there is. As a
yeah,
matter
the
of
two
fact, it's
options
funny
are
you
not
should.
really that
Okay,
good. So,
funny you should say that. I thought you were talking about regional stuff over there. No, but funny you should say that because I just watched Hazal Dipshit, otherwise known as Hazal Din, who's the chairman of the American Communist Party, telling us that the only real options to the American Communist Party are, Christian nationalists and various sorts of right-wing fanatical morons. Well, that's not true. There is a third option. The third option is the American Capitalist Party, and you can find us at americancapitalistparty.org. Donate, join, become a member, be a part of the new American Revolution. The sons and daughters of liberty are you out there who join our movement now. We are in the middle of some very big things. We're in the middle of putting people up for city council, and we're also joining forces with a couple of groups that we're going to be announcing today on our Twitter Spaces. We have a meeting at 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Join in for total transparency. We're the only transparent party out there. You can listen to our meetings. We will be joining forces with a group that I think will extend our reach out there politically, and we're going to be contacting various Congress people that we think are disillusioned by Trump and who may be great alternatives to switch parties midstream. And so we're making waves right now, guys, and I want you to be a part of that wave. So join up, donate, join, read the party platform, ingest it. If you want to add anything or critique it, let us know.
well, I want to critique one thing. 5 p.m. You're making Michael Leibowitz miss WrestleMania. That's my critique. But
I think he said something about that. Yeah. Yeah. So, yes, he has to miss a little bit of WrestleMania, but not everything. I mean, the meetings only go for about an hour anyway. We just deal with the action points that we have to deal with. It's part of the legal process of being a party. You have to have these monthly meetings, and they have to be registered in minutes so that the powers that be can determine that we are an actual political party, unlike the American Communist Party, which is a group of shills, terrorist supporters, and idiots. So don't confuse us with them.
all right, and I will not send Michael any spoilers I'll try not to, actually. We have a wrestling fans group that's pretty new, but I'm
You
gonna
guys are silly. You guys are very silly.
you're missing out. But anyway,
Okay.
thank you, Garbled Words. It's a good thing we were filibustering because we got another super chat. Thank you, Garbled Words, who says, "Hi, Mark. Missed you on the Joe Rogan Experience with your boy Dave Smith. Hope you are well, brother." Yeah, that would have been something. I think a rematch with Dave. Actually, I'm not a fan of the idea of even talking to people like that. But
Look, I say things that Dave doesn't understand, and I don't know that Joe would understand them either, but at least Joe would be interested and curious and say, "What the fuck do you mean by that?" And then Dave would have to listen to it instead of filibuster on his mic. And so it would definitely turn out interesting because I think I have different things to say than Murray does. As much as I love Douglas Murray and I think he's a great advocate for Israel, one of the few sound voices out there. And if you notice, the real voices for Israel out there are really smart people, folks. And unlike the Schenk Uyghurs out there, whatever, these guys from the Young Turks who are just hysterical maniacs, Dave Smith, they're just ridiculous human beings on so many levels. You listen to the pro-Israel people, and they're rational. They're together. They're so smart when they discuss this issue on any issue. So that should be a clue to you where the pro-Israel side is coming from. They're coming from the side of reason and rights. The other side is coming from pictures that they've seen that make them squeamish. And that is not the way to judge the moral context of any conflict, folks.
yeah, that being said, we are on the Daily Objective 7 days a week, the reality show 5 days a week. We need material to create content. The Dave Smiths and Cenk Uyghurs of the world give us basically unlimited topics because they keep opening their mouth.
Can we
So
please call Cenk Uyghur the Toad Man because he looks like a living toad?
Yes, we can. Well, you can.
Okay,
I
I'll
need
call
to
him the
put his
Toad
name in
Man.
the title because it's good for the algorithm when we talk about him. So,
Okay. So Toad
and
Man would have no algorithmic value.
Stedman says to ARCUK, looking forward again to the upcoming discussion on Katie Halper. That will happen someday, hopefully. Yes, we keep postponing it, but she deserves it, so it will come at some point. All right. All right, we've filibustered enough. This is to prepare you, Mark, for when you're in Congress and have to do this to prevent, Congress from doing the crap that they usually do. But I think
I'll
we've,
just read from Atlas Shrugged. That's all I'll do. I won't even make up a speech. I'll just take Galt's speech and just go.
I like that. And yeah, I trust you not to end up like the previous guy who read Atlas Shrugged to filibuster.
Oh, what happened? What? I don't even know about this.
Well, he's Ted Cruz and he, became whatever he is now. So.
He's a fraud. Well, I wouldn't become a Ted Cruz. You don't have to worry about that.
Well, on that positive note, who says we only do negative stuff? On that positive note, thanks, Mark. Thanks, everybody, for watching. We'll see you back here tomorrow with the Daily Objective.
Peace.